Welcome into First Pitch for Friday, July 26th. We got Bryan Leonard and Dave Cokin on. We're breaking down the Friday card from top to bottom. Bryan Leonard at Wager Talk. Welcome to the show. How you doing this morning, buddy?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And Mr. Dave Cokin over at Wager Talk, and he's got his college football play up for week one. Check it out at wagertalk.com. Welcome in, Dave.
Yeah, football season's underway. I won't get involved in the Hall of Fame game next week, but that gets things kicked off officially and heavily invested already in, as far as time is concerned with college football. And I'm going to be putting up a few more games in the next few days, but I have one that I like a lot the first week. And hopefully it's going to be another good season in college football. The last two have been really good.
Well, good stuff, man. Look forward to that. It's college football season, about a month away now, so it's exciting stuff. But, guys, let's break down this Friday MLB card. We got one game starting before 7 p.m. Eastern here. We got Colorado at Cincinnati, Marquez versus Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo and the Reds commanding about a minus 135 price tag. 8.5 seems to be the total in the Queen City tonight, Dave. Start off with you. You have any interest in getting involved in the Rockies and Reds tonight?
You know, Marquez has been just a train wreck at home, but he's still got good numbers on the road, including a whip of about 0.9. And Castillo's got great numbers at home, also in that same area in the whip. Game scores are similar on the road. They're both over 60 for Marquez on the road. Over 60 for the Castillo at home for the Reds. Those are really good numbers this deep into the season. So it looks like an under, and therefore it's probably an over, because that's such, what's going to happen is the starters are going to pitch well, and then the two bullpens are going to come in and screw it up. There's been so many of those this year. It's just been unbelievable. I mean, I can make a case for the first 5 under here. With Marquez, I think, he's a little dicey right now because he's had some really rough starts, but they've mostly been at Coors. And Castillo's he's just really good. It doesn't matter where you pitch him. I think runs could be tough to come by early in this game.
And Dave, I've seen you say on Twitter, if you're betting under, stick to the first 5. Is that just throughout baseball, or do you pick your spots to do that?
Well, unless you can tell me that there's a reliable bullpen out there someplace. What, maybe the Giants?
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Bullpens. And I've said this a few times, I'll say it again. Because everybody keeps saying, well, why are the bullpens so bad? Well, because they're pitching more innings than they ever have before, and they're mostly comprised of failed starting pitchers who only have 1 or 2 decent pitchers. You keep trooping them out there on a regular basis, they're going to get hammered. These guys aren't that good, okay? Even some of the best relievers are guys who failed as closers. The best reliever of all time was a failed starting pitcher, Mariano Rivera. He had one amazing pitch, but he could never have been a starting pitcher with. So anyway, it's just that you add in added exit velocity like we've never seen before, more homers than we've ever seen before, bad control. To me, most people are handicapping, I assume. If you're handicapping totals and you're looking at unders, you're handicapping the starting pitchers. Well, they only pitch 6 innings anyway for the most part. So why do you want to get hamstrung with 3 innings that you have no clue about?
Yeah, good point, Dave. And Bryan, what about you? Colorado-Cincinnati night, any interest?
Yeah, I do have some interest in this one. I just want to touch on something that Dave said about the problems with the relievers. One of the things that used to be, you would see it when you have a 3 or 4 game series, you'd see these guys maybe once during the series. Now they're trying these guys out 2 or 3 times during this 4 game series. And so you get used to seeing these pitchers and what they have. That's one of the reasons I think is the bullpens really struggle this year. But Dave hit it on the head. I mean, for the most part, your bullpen right now is basically down to pitchers who are good at one thing. They've got one good pitch. If you've got 3 good pitchers, you're a great starter. If you've got 2, you're a decent starter. You got 1, basically, you're just throwing flame or whatever like a lot of these guys do now. And it used to be when you didn't see a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, it was really something. Now you've got so many guys in the bullpen just cranking them out. That's what you get used to. So that's one of the things for it. But, yeah, in this game here, I agree with Dave's point a little bit with Cincinnati. But, when you take a look at the total, Dave mentioned the total, just the history of this head-to-head so far The last couple of years, we're looking at scores of 19, 26. There was a 5 in Colorado, believe it or not. 12, 9, 15, 10, 11, 9, 9. So they're scoring a lot of runs the last couple of years with this series, and only half of those games are in Colorado. Cincinnati is known to have a good hitter's ballpark, although it hasn't played that way as much lately. But, yeah, Castillo here, you take a look at his last 7 starts, his game scores are 61, whereas Marquez is 42. And obviously, when you're pitching half your games in Colorado, that's going to be a concern. But I do have a question for you guys. 2 games back for Marquez. He had that home game against San Francisco. Goes 2.2 innings, 11 earned runs. His game score was -5. I don't remember if I've ever seen a negative game score. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I've seen a few like that, but that's one of the worst I've seen. And the problem is it was so bad it completely skewed his numbers. I mean, you almost have to I have a tendency to throw out outliers.
You really should.
Eliminate them because they skew the numbers, and you really can't get a good read if you include them. So it's kind of like if Mike Leake throws a 100, I'm not really going to factor that in much. And if Marquez happens to throw a -5, I'm not going to factor that much in either.
Well, I went against your thoughts on Leake the other day after he threw the 90. I faded him the next game.
Yeah, so did I.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I was fading him that game. Unfortunately, took the loss in that one. And guys, when you bring up game scores, do you mind just summarizing that for any listeners that might not know what it is?
There's Bill James is the creator of it, and it's basically a measure of how a pitcher actually performed. 50 on the Bill James scale. 50 is an average grade. Above 50 is further above 50 the better. Further below 50, the worse. Fangraphs has played around with it a little bit, and they have another formula they're using, which gives slightly different numbers, but they're basically similar. And it's a really good way of gauging how a pitcher really performed, better than just looking at the box score and seeing what the hits, runs, and walks were.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Baseball Reference, which is slightly different, but it's just, to me, it's just a round number. It's sort of like a WAR type of thing, for hitters or whatever. And instead of going how many innings they pitch, we're trying to get out of here. We don't want this to be too long. So it's just a way for me to get to that number real quick, and people can understand that.
Good stuff, Ryan. Thank you. We got the Dodgers and Nationals up next, 9:03, 9:04. Ryu on the hill, -160 favorites on the road versus Sanchez and the Nats. Brian, come to you first. We got a pretty big favorite here on the road, but that Dodgers lineup, man, it's tough to step in front of. You involved tonight in the Dodgers?
At this point, I've been looking at the dog. Don't know if I'm going to play it. Sanchez is one of those guys that goes under the radar. He's not a big strikeout guy. And Ryu's just been pitching tremendous this year. 1.76 ERA after last year's 1.97. Ryu's played 4 games against Washington in his career. His first one was a 51-game score. Then he did 61, 78, and 88. That was earlier this year. He goes 8 innings, gives up 1 hit, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. Very impressive. The problem you have is the Dodgers are so much better at home than they are on the road. I believe they're let me check right here at home. Yeah, 40-14 at home, and they have just a 27-23 record on the road. Good record, but a lot different than when they're playing at home. And Washington is one of those teams that's hot right now. Washington actually went to L.A. earlier this season, played a 4-game series and split. That's pretty impressive when you've only lost 14 games at home all season, and 2 of those were in 4 games against Washington. Can't lay the number here with the Dodgers. The line's just too high, and everybody knows how well Ryu's pitched all season long. Slightly lean to Washington. Don't know if they'll get there at this point.
And Dave, what about you?
Same, pretty much. I'm not going against Ryu. I mean, it's just kind of pointless. If the best I can do is try and beat that guy, I'll take the day off. But the Dodgers are not worthy of this being this much of a favorite. It's climbing into 160 range now. I mean, Sanchez has been pretty respectable at home. And the Nationals bullpen blew the game yesterday, but their key guys weren't available. So they'll be available tonight. And the Dodgers bullpen has actually been very untrustworthy lately. So I don't think you can lay it here. But again, I'd rather not go against Ryu.
And the team the Nats are chasing, we got the Atlanta Braves up next in Philadelphia tonight. Soroka and Arrieta. I'll tell you, anytime Soroka's on the hill, I'm interested in the Braves, but they're trying to fend off people coming after him. Minus 137, minus 140 at some places, 9.5. Dave, see you shaking your head. You're not interested?
No, well, this Soroka's been amazing on the road. Absolutely amazing. Hasn't lost a game yet on the road. Fantastic numbers, 0.86 whip. Average game score on the road, 66. That's extraordinary. The Braves almost always win when he pitches 13-4. But, it's in the price. It's gone up. And Arrieta, while he doesn't really have his, he's a shell of what he used to be. But he's grinding things out. And his last 2 starts have been pretty good. Not great. I mean, I don't think you're going to get any great starts out of Arrieta. But he's limiting the damage. He's leaving guys on base, making the pitches when he needs to make them. To me, you can't lay $1.35 on the road and feel good about it.
And Brian, what about you? You interested in this NL East matchup tonight?
I may be a little bit interested in the total here. You talked about how Soroka's been all season long. He's been terrific. When you go back his last 7 starts, his average game score is 48, which is actually lower than average. So he's been a little bit fortunate here. He's only given up 5 home runs in 102 innings. When you take a look at Arrieta, he's given up 18 home runs, and he's only pitched 16 more innings than that. So Soroka's been a little bit fortunate. Some of that is his pitching, and he doesn't give up the fly balls as much. But you take a look at the head-to-head for these 2 teams so far this season. We're looking at scores of 18, 11, 2, 16, 11, 17, 6, 14, and 14. So a lot of runs have been scored here. We're looking at a total of 9.5. It's a hitter's ballpark. Both these teams have very good hitters. 9.5 is your general person is going to look at this game and see 9.5 with Soroka on the mound. I got to look for the under. I tend to look for the over in this one. He's not pitching as well right now as he was earlier in the season. He did have that 73 game score his last road game against San Diego, but that is a pitcher's park, and San Diego at home doesn't hit as well as on the road. So slight lean here to the over. Don't know if I'll get there.
All right, we got 9:15, 9:16 up next. 2 pitchers I haven't been involved with yet this year. Castillo going for Tampa Bay at
Wait a
Toronto.
minute. Where did we go here? No, we're in the Pittsburgh Mets game.
All right. Whoops. Sorry about that, guys. My rotation number got out of hand. We got Pittsburgh, New York Mets. Sorry about that. Wheeler on the hill for the Mets, commanding minus 170-ish price, total of 9. Dave, have at it.
Huge line move in this game on the Mets. And, it's completely understandable as bad as the Pirates are playing right now. They're just out of it now. 10 games under 500. They're playing about as badly as anybody can play. Agrizal has been kind of the shining light for the Pirates since he got called up. He's pitching really well, but you look at how he's doing it, and I can't really form an opinion on him yet because he doesn't have great stuff. He doesn't miss any bats, basically. He's getting a lot of soft contact, but not all that much, and you just wonder if this is just – I have a tendency to think this is just kind of a blip, that this guy's probably not this good and is going to start getting hit. And maybe the Mets can take advantage of that. I mean, you got, 12 strikeouts in 28 innings. By today's standards, that's absurd. So guys that don't miss bats, boy, they better be good with their location or they're going to get hit. Zach Wheeler coming off another DL stint, which is the norm for him. The Mets are showcasing him. They want to trade him. It's a chance for Wheeler, if he pitches well, to end up with a contender. It's as simple as that. He's the most movable guy in that rotation right now. I don't know how he's going to react to that. And, he's been completely erratic. He's a very tough guy to get a handle on. When he's got good stuff, he can be really close to unhittable because he throws hard and he's got movement on that pitch. But when he doesn't have his command, especially when he falls behind in counts, boy, he gets really hittable. And he's an example of a guy who at times gets very straight with his fastball, and I don't care how hard you're throwing it. If it's straight, big league hitters will be able to hit it. Pirates might be better off being on the road right now. I think their fan base is really down on them, on the whole organization, actually, and I can't disagree with that. Price here is way too high to play the Mets. but I have no real interest in the Pirates. I think the Mets might have been a good play at the opening number, but they're not now.
Yeah, if Zach Wheeler's on, I think the Mets are the side, but it is a high price here, Brian. Do you have any interest in this one?
Yeah, I think the line's gotten out of hand here. I like the Pirates here. Dave hit the pitcher for the Pirates right on the nose with not getting many strikeouts. He's more of a finesse pitcher. But, so far this year he's got a 55 average game score. Wheeler's last 7 has got a 50 game score. And Wheeler's just too unpredictable to me. And Dave talked about possibly trading him. The latest I heard out of New York was no, they're going to keep him. But just a few days ago, they said they were trading him. I think they're both he and Thor are both up for trade right now at this point. I think they'd be willing to trade either one of them. But you look at Wheeler at 4.69 ERA. I mean, he's been very inconsistent. 2017, 5.21. Last year, 3.31. Now he's right in the middle. He's got great stuff.
Yeah, he
but
does.
Just hasn't put it all together yet. And I'm a big believer in when you're on a losing streak like the Pirates are, and they just lost 6 of 7 at home to St. Louis and Philadelphia, especially St. Louis. The team was hitting the hell out of the ball right now. Once they get out of town, I think it's a bonding experience for them. And, hey, we just talked earlier about his football season. Pittsburgh fans are all football. So it's not like they're huge Pirate fans anyway. They put up with the Pirates, and they root for the Pirates. Then when football's over, they're done. I think that's a little bit of something that the Pirate players want to, hey, we're still here, one of those type of things. The line's too high here to play the Mets. I like the Pirates here.
And Brian, you're a Pittsburgh guy, right? Or no, Cleveland guy.
Cleveland guy. Marco's the Pittsburgh guy. And I root for the Pirates with them. The Steelers, no way.
Okay. Is Cleveland all football too, or they respect their Indians?
Cleveland's mostly football. They're even good. They even sell out when they're bad. So Cleveland's a diehard football fan. I've never been a huge Browns fan. I was more Indians and Cavaliers. But the Indians, it's just amazing. They had that big sellout where they would win all the games and they go to the playoffs. And then because they haven't won the World Series, they don't even sell out anymore.
The funny thing is, in the 90s, they were the best drawing team in baseball.
They were, and people just got used to it. And it's to the point now, it's like, well, yeah, they may make the playoffs, and they probably will make the playoffs, but they're going to lose again. And they don't realize that in baseball, it's a coin flip. Once you make the baseball playoffs, all you got to do is make the playoffs. Anything can happen. Mm-hmm. It's not like the NBA where you got the same 3 or 4 teams every year that can only win it. Baseball, even with the salary cap, it's my favorite game because any team can win it. Hey, the Royals were really good for a long time.
That's what I like about the NHL.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the team that was the team that was dead last in the league,
right?
Last in the league on January 3rd, won the Stanley Cup.
That's a crazy stat, man. You can ride a hot goaltender, ride hot starting pitchers all the way to the end. And talking about the Indians in the 90s, 97, they had a heck of a squad, and they ran up to the Marlins in the World Series. That was back in the day. And Alcantara's on the hill in South Florida for the Marlins versus the Arizona Diamondbacks and Zach Greinke commanding minus 180 price tag on the road. 7.5 being the total. Interesting here to see a big plus price for an all-star pitcher. The Marlins. Oh,
come on.
Well, I mean, I was going to say it is the Marlins.
He's an all-star pitcher about as much as I am. They had to take somebody from the Marlins because the rules say every team's got to have one guy on, and they took him, and he wasn't even their best player.
Right, their best player was injured.
Right.
All right. So, what are you guys thinking here in South Florida tonight?
Well, I mean, I didn't mean to trash Alcantara because he's not bad. I mean, he's a decent prospect. He throws pretty hard, and I think he's got a future. But he's not that good right now, and he looks like he might be running into an innings wall because he's had a lot of work. And for young pitchers, sometimes you got to keep your eye on that. We get toward the second half of the season, down the stretch, they just get tired. They're not used to the grind. It's an awfully big price for Arizona to be laying on the road, but the Marlins, they just don't hit. And a guy like Greinke, who's such a smart pitcher, cerebral pitcher, he should be able to figure them out. I think the Diamondbacks will win this. Don't disagree with the line move. Not going to be on it at $1.80, but I think they're the right side.
Yeah, 20-cent line move here towards Arizona and Greinke. Brian, you interested in this game tonight in South Florida?
Miami's offense has scored 21 runs the last 8 games. That's less than 3 a game. It's tough to count on them, especially in that ballpark. They don't seem to hit very well. Alcantara, as was pointed out, 2 years ago he had 8 innings, Major League Ball. Last year 34, now 112. His last 5 starts going back, he's thrown 96, 97, 108, 90, and 112. That's a lot of innings, a lot of pitches for a young guy like that. I prefer the Arizona side, but obviously I'm not going to lay that kind of number with the Diamondbacks here. Maybe play something like a Miami team total runs under, maybe worth it. But that's something that as far as I know, they don't have it posted yet, so I can't say I bet it because I haven't seen it yet.
All right, guys, we got 9-11, 9-12 up next. Cubs and Brewers. Hendricks versus Gio Gonzalez coming from the left side. 9.5 being the total. Pretty much a pick-em price here, Cubs, Brewers. Brian, back at you. What are you thinking?
Cubs 9-12 on the season versus lefties, and they've got a couple guys, key guys out for this game. Bryant's out again. And the Cubs not as deep. They did bring up Ian Happ again, take over and help fill some gaps, but
don't hit the ball to him.
Yeah,
not real good with the glove.
He's a real good hitter, but yeah, that's part of the reason why they sent him down in the first place. But yeah, Gio Gonzalez, one of those guys that the teams win for him. I mean, I don't know. It's I've written him off so many times, but yet he continues to come out and he seems to get these wins. His last 5 starts going all the way back to 2015, 56-game score against the Cubs. He did face them once this year and a 65-game score. And Hendricks, 48-game score his last 5 against Milwaukee, and those have all been in the last couple of years. So he is underperformed a little bit against the Brewers. Probably not going to get involved in this game. I bet under for both these teams in season wins, so I guess I'm happy to get a loss out of one of these two, but I probably won't be involved.
Yeah, I think that Brewers under is starting to look somewhat tasty, but they might win tonight. Boy, Hendricks he's just not. Look, he's a finesse pitcher, and he's his fastball. I don't even know if it hits 90. But he's such a good command pitcher that he gets by with it. But he's not pitching at that level this year, and especially not pitching at that level on the road. In fact, he's not pitching that level anywhere right now. The Cubs have lost his last 5 starts. His ERA on the road is just an old school stat, but sometimes old school stats can tell you a lot. 5.44 ERA on the road. And the road is supposed to be arguably better for Cubs pitchers than home, because Wrigley can be a massive hitter's ballpark, especially when the warm weather comes. Gonzalez he does it with mirrors because he's a soft tosser at this point. He's strictly a command guy, but he's doing a good job, and there's just no hard contact off him. 28%. His hard hit rate is 28%, which is downright spectacular by 2019 standards. Brewers got the day off yesterday, so that means Hader is available for as much as they want him to be available for late in the game. I think the Brewers are probably the right side in this game. The line has moved that way. The Cubs open 120. It's now pick 'em basically, and I don't disagree with the market here. I think the Brewers have a good chance to win this one.
Talking with Dave Cokin and Bryan Leonard. Bryan Leonard's got 2 plays up tonight in MLB. Dave Cokin's got his college football 5% play for week 1 up at Wager Talk.
And I'll mention that the line, I would get that now because I am already seeing indications that this line will not be what it is now when we get to a game day in a month. So, lines are out there everywhere. If you have access, I would snap it up and bet it now.
And Dave, speaking of college football, we got Jeff Samardzija on the hill versus Joey Lucchesi, one of the better names in MLB. Total of 8, -140, San Diego Padres at home. Feel free to break down this game. And any interest in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this year?
Yeah, they'll be a good team. Top 15 team. They're a solid squad.
Right.
I immediately circled the Padres in this game because I think the Giants are going to start regressing. But then I started looking at Samardzija, and he loves to pitch in this ballpark. He's in, by his standards, pretty good form. He's still going to give up the home run ball because that's just something he does. Lucchese's very good at home for the Padres. He's had 3 starts against the Giants this year. The 2 at San Francisco weren't too good. The 1 at home was very good, even though he didn't last a long time. Padres will have the bullpen available for this game for the most part. I would think they did play yesterday against the Mets, but their key guys didn't get used. But my circle got scratched out because, look, the Giants, I think I need to wait for maybe just a 2-game losing streak before I start moving against this team. And Padres coming home off a trip is not an ideal circumstance. So it's one of those games that at first glance looked good to me. And once I dug into it deeper, it's like, okay, I think maybe this isn't a great play, especially at minus 140. So I scratched it, and I'm not going to get involved.
What about the total, Brian? Interested in that? A total of 8, maybe looking towards the under?
I'm actually looking under for the first 5, I think is the best way to play this. Padres games, and I just want to touch on the Milwaukee situation. Just one thing. Dave mentioned that Milwaukee was off yesterday. Take a look at how these major league teams do when they have that day off. They score pretty much like an extra run the following day by having that day off. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about, but the scoring does go up the day after you have a day off, and that's pretty much league-wide. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but keep that in mind. Samardzija, Dave talked about it. Samardzija's a guy that I usually like to fade, but as he pointed out, in San Diego, 68, 57, and 86 game scores the last 3 years that they've been there. The San Diego first half at home has been tremendous to the under, especially when they come back first game back home after a series. It's been a tremendous underplay. Lucchese, as Dave mentioned, pitched very well at home. And if you take a look at what he's done at home against San Francisco last 2 years, 67, 48, 67. So he's been very consistent. I like this under in the first 5, and that's going to be one of the games that I'm betting today.
All right, and Brian, you bring up that's an interesting stat. After the day off, almost a run higher league-wide. Can you think of any reason why, just other than rest?
It's a rest thing. It's got to be a rest thing. These guys, for the most part, you're playing – if you have the day off, and then part of this is if you have the day off, the coach knows he could play his star players because they get the day of rest the next day. They can come right back on them the day after that. A lot of times, if they've got a lot of games in a row, they like on a Sunday. We've seen this all the time on a Thursday or Sunday when teams are leaving town. They will play the lesser players. So instead of getting your top of the line guy, you're getting 2 or 3 guys off the bench that are playing, and that's probably a major reason.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. And guys, we got the American League up next. Tampa Bay, Toronto in the AL East. Castillo in the Hill for Tampa Bay, minus 135-ish, 9.5. Both of these pitchers, Dave, I haven't been involved with all season long. Have you any interest here in the Rays and Blue Jays?
Castillo's a reliever, so I don't know what the Rays are going to do now. I hate to say it, but I think their season's over. Blake Snell's going to be out for who knows how long now with the elbow. Glasnow had a setback, and it looks like he's not going to be available to September. So the rotation is Charlie Morton and a prayer. And they don't win with offense. So I don't know what they're going to do at this point. The Rays aren't going to go out and pick up anybody. That they never do. So I think they might be a team that struggles the rest of the way. No interest in Toronto and Waguspek, who I would call him a fringe pitching prospect. The Blue Jays are building for the future. They're just playing out the string this year. I don't know. $1.30 seems about right. I'm not going to get involved.
Ray's plan is Charlie Morton in a prayer. I like it, Dave. Brian, what about you, man?
Yeah, it's even worse that the Rays had that young pitcher that also could play first base. They brought him back up.
McKay.
I'm sorry?
Brendan McKay.
Yes, that's it. And he's already reached where they wanted him to be for innings pitched this year. So they're in a tough position. They're still trying to make the playoffs, trying to make that wild card, but they don't want to put too many innings on his back. So
And
they're in a
something
tough
else,
situation right now.
they've also got lineup guys hurt. Diaz is back on the DL. Brandon Lau was supposed to be back last weekend. He had a setback, and I don't know when he's coming back now. So that's two good bats, and they don't have a lot of bats. So it's just not a very good situation. Kevin Cash is a genius. Okay, I think he's arguably the best game manager in baseball, and he'll find a way to squeeze out wins. But this is not a good-looking baseball team right now.
You know, Tampa's management does so well with bringing in players and scouting and bringing in the managers that work so well with them. Hats off to them. If they only had a ballpark and some fan base, it'd be amazing. I've been to that park. It's the worst one in Major League.
It's terrible. You know something else, by the way? It happened with Joe Madden, and I think it's going to happen with Kevin Cash, is once his contract's up, he's probably going to go free agent as a manager and get a really good job someplace.
It would not surprise me. He's really good friends with the Cleveland coach, and he can only coach for so long. And he's had physical ailments. Would not surprise me at all if the Indians make a run at him. But as for this game here, I don't trust either of these pitchers, and I'm just not going to get involved in this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and you guys bring up great points on the Rays. I mean, that ballpark, it's crazy. But the thing with Montreal, do you think that's going to work out or no?
No, I think they should just move the team to Montreal.
I agree.
Build a new stadium in Montreal, obviously a dome stadium or retractable roof. They are the perfect location for that franchise. No offense to any other cities. There's other great locations, but Montreal is a perfect geographical fit for the American League East. And you've also got a great rivalry that would automatically just be put in place with the Blue Jays, Expos or whatever. They could rename them the Expos if they want.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would. And the Blue Jays. It'd be fantastic. Get them out of Tampa. And I've been to that ballpark as well. And I was there when it was fairly new. And it was like, you could see why they called it the slop right away. It's just, whoever designed that ballpark had to be doing acid.
It's crazy that an MLB team plays in that stadium, Brian.
Yeah, it really is. And well, I've been to Montreal's too. Before they were disbanded, I was up there for the USFL championship with Ralph Michaels, and that wasn't the nicest stadium either at the time.
No, and it had the weirdest sound. It did. I mean, it was just like, I don't know. I can't even describe it. It just felt like, I don't know, the acoustics were like one of those old high school auditoriums, only it was really big, and it was just a terrible place to watch a game.
Well, staying in the AL East, we got the Yankees and Red Sox. Paxton versus Andrew Cashner, 11.5 being the total, minus 125 Yankees on the road. Dave, I'll tell you, this is an interesting handicap after last night. You know, it's almost like, do you have to bring that kind of score into this game? I don't know. I'm not involved, but what are you thinking here with the Yanks and the Red Sox?
Talked about this when Andrew Cashner got traded, and he's really pitched well for the Orioles this year, and they were 11-6 in his starts, which, considering how bad Baltimore is, 11-6 is astonishing. So naturally, he goes to a contending team, and he's 0-2, and that's the difference in terms of pitching in games that don't mean anything every game. You just go out there and do your best. And all of a sudden, being in the pressure cooker where every pitch you make is under a microscope, it's a whole different mindset for Cashner. And so far, not so good. His last start was better. We'll call it average. His first start was ugly. Paxton is not really reliable on the road this year. You know the Red Sox want to beat the Yankees, but I don't think I want Cashner. And I know it's only one game and it doesn't mean a whole lot, but 19-3, that's a good baseball team. They got humiliated last night. They were in a bad spot in that game coming out of that wild series at Minnesota, and the bullpen got used up, and it was just 3 crazy games with the Twins. And I think they had a dead spot last night. I got a feeling the Yankees, they might be swinging tonight.
Brian, what do you think? Yankees swinging tonight?
Yeah, I agree. The 2 games before that New York played Boston, they scored 12 and 17. So it was the one bad game there. I can see the 11.5 here, but take a look at what James Paxton has done his last 5 starts against Boston. 68 average game score, ERA 1.89, strikeout to walk ratio 34-4. Problem is, Paxton is one of those guys. 2 starts ago, last start out, he had a 31. He's just one of those guys that when he's bad, he's really bad. When he's good, he's really good. And it's hard to back those kind of guys. I'd like to play the Yankees here, but what I may do instead is play the Yankees team total over. They are playing casher, and Dave talked about his last time out. He actually got to face his old team, the Baltimore Orioles. And even Baltimore did pretty well against him. He goes 6 innings, gives up 4 earned runs in that game, 49 game score. So I think I'm going to take a look at the Yankees team total in this one. And I think that's probably the way to go. I may end up on the Yankees somehow, but Paxton scares me. He's just one of those guys. I'd rather have a more consistent pitcher than Paxton on the mound. So we'll see what happens here.
Guys, we've got a few games left. We got the Minnesota Twins, who figured out Giolito last night, throwing Michael Pineda tonight, minus 160 at the Chicago White Sox, total at 10, Brian.
Yeah, Giolito, you mentioned last night, he got hit pretty well, and he still I had him under in strikeouts, and he still got the 7 and beat me in that. Usually when you give up 7 in a run, I think you give up 7 in a run, you're not around long enough to get 7 strikeouts, but that's what happens sometimes. But yeah, Twins right now are just hitting the ball like crazy again, 10, 7, 12, 8, 7 their last 5 games. And Dylan Cease, this guy's got a tremendous upside, but he has not pitched well so far. 6.19 ERA. His best start was a 40. And keep in mind, he has a 49, 42, and 45 game scores. Those are against Detroit, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. So he hasn't really faced an offense this good as of yet. Michael Pineda is a guy who he obviously wasn't healthy last year. He's starting to come around. Last 7 starts, a 57 game score, 2.93 ERA. He doesn't pitch very long. He throws really too many pitches, gets himself in trouble there. A lot of it is the strikeouts. And when you do have strikeouts, you're usually pitching longer. Takes you longer than usually the 15 pitches per inning to get through it. He's had good success against the White Sox in the past. But then you're laying that number with Minnesota, and it is a road game. They're at about 165, 170 right now. Lean that side, but it may be a little bit too rich for me.
Dave, what are you thinking, man?
I agree with what Brian said. I think Dylan Cease, he's got a chance to be really good, but a lot of rough edges to smooth out. Command's been an issue so far, and he's getting his feet wet. And it's a perfect opportunity for the White Sox. Let him pitch until he reaches whatever his innings limit is for this season, and then you can shut him down. And he'll have gotten his baptismal fire out of the way. It doesn't matter what happens this year for the White Sox. They're building for next year, and this is a guy who they're looking to establish as one of their 2 aces. Kopech would be the other one once he comes back from Tommy John. So this is just, go out there and throw and get the experience and see what happens. The White Sox are playing terrible baseball right now. The Twins should win this ball game, but you're having to pay a severe price if you want to play them.
Guys, we got the AL Central matchup up next. Zach Plesac on the hill for the Cleveland Indians versus Jacob Junis and the Kansas City Royals. Junis, I believe, is coming off paternity leave for whatever that's worth in this game. 9.5 being the total, minus 115 to minus 122. The Indians commanding that price on the road. What are you thinking here, Dave?
It's a tough game because Junis is in good form right now, and I also kind of like guys coming off the paternity leave. They're pretty fired up, excited, and have a little extra inspiration, if you will. Plesac's been okay for Cleveland. I don't know how good his stuff is. There seems to be mixed opinion as to what his ceiling is, but look, the guy's pitching pretty good baseball, and the Indians just keep winning games. And even last night, they can't hit the whole night. And that's against a bad pitcher and a bad bullpen, and they didn't do anything. And they won the game anyway. So everything's going right for Cleveland right now. I'm not going to get in their way, but this looks trappy at minus 120. It's one of those games where you can just look at the line and say every square in town is going to be on the Indians in this game. And here's the thing. This has been a baseball season, and you can ask any sports book in town, and I suspect any credit bookmaker across the country, how's it been for the public bettors this year? And they're just going to shake their heads and say, we have gotten the snot knocked out of us. Because they have. It's been a bad baseball season for the books. Public teams, public pitchers have been winning all year long. I'm not going to go against it here. The Indians are as square as it gets tonight, and I think they'll probably win.
Interesting. Okay, Brian, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, Dave talked about the public winning, and the thing is, I'm an underdog player, and last year I was had a tremendous season as an underdog player. This year, the underdogs are terrible this year, especially after the All-Star break. I've learned that especially until you get to the September when they start bringing up new players that have something to play for, favorites are the way to go. And it sucks because when you're an underdog player, you just can't get these teams to come in at this time of the year. Junis is interesting because even though he did have the paternity situation, he didn't miss any time. He pitched on the 20th. He's in his regular rotation. He didn't miss any time because of that. But you go back his last 3 starts at Washington, a 63-game score. Against the White Sox at home, a 71. Last time he was out, just 6 days ago, he played these Indians in Cleveland, had a 72. Now, he hasn't pitched very well against the Indians in the last few years. Game scores before that were 28, 41, 40, and 49. So I think Cleveland's going to remember that. They're going to – I've got Junis on my fantasy team, which sucks. But I just think Cleveland's going to be able to hit him pretty well today. The only thing is, these 2 teams went to extra innings yesterday, 14 innings. Cleveland wins. Some questionable coaching on how they put the pitchers in there late in the game for Cleveland, and Kansas City is intentionally walking guys that shouldn't have been intentionally walked. But I like to play on teams when they lose an extra inning game like that. I think the team that wins it feels fortunate that they got the win. And usually I like to play on that team, which would be Kansas City here. But as I said, I think Cleveland could hit Junis pretty well here. So I'm probably going to sit it out. But Dave makes some great points about this way this game should go. But I don't have enough information right now to really make a solid announcement on it.
I just want to make note here that Brian is complaining about Jacob Junis being on his fantasy team. You're in first place. My team was in first place for the entire first half of the season. And then anybody who's been in fantasy baseball knows the experience when everybody gets hurt. I have 9 guys on the disabled list, right? 9 on the disabled list, and I'm dead. So if you want to send me Jacob Junis, I'll take any healthy body at this point. I'll even take Jacob Junis's kid who just got born, okay?
Well, I mean, Dave, if you have 9 guys on the DL, you got to start dropping some of them. There's not many weeks left in the regular season.
The problem is it's an ultra league, so this isn't one of those. This isn't a Yahoo league where you can dip into the pool and bring somebody up. You got to bid for guys, and it's all budgeted. And there are no players available in ultra leagues.
It's a keeper league, and some of these guys still have value, even though they're not going to help you this year.
We have minor leaguers on our teams that were, these are 3-year contracts. It's not square fantasy baseball. Let's put it that way.
I got to tell you, between Dave Cokin and Stephen Nover and myself and Andy Isco is in our league also. I got to be honest with you, Dave. I don't know why these other guys are still in the league with us, because we're always in the top 3 or 4. They call things a plus EV. This is a plus EV league for Dave and I.
Yeah, I'm showing a nice profit over the years.
That's good stuff. Well, you guys almost got to tame it down. I've been in leagues where it's like, man, I don't want to win it again. I'm second or third's where you want to be at, just be in the money.
Yeah.
Right?
When you've got friends like Stephen Over, Andy Isco, and Dave Cokin in it, you want to win. I mean, it's okay. All of us want the little bragging rights.
All right, guys. Well, we got the late night slate here. Go ahead, Dave.
No, and the money. I don't care about the bragging rights. I don't care about
I like
that.
Bragging rights. The money doesn't mean that much to me.
I like the money. I can go blow it in nice restaurants.
All right, guys. Well, we got 923-924 starting off the late night slate. 10 p.m. Eastern starts here. Texas versus Oakland. Lance Lynn versus Mangden. We know Mangden can grow a mean mustache here, but Lance Lynn, 29 Ks, 5 walks his last 3, and he's faced the Houston lineup twice. Not sure if it's just a thing on that Houston lineup or if he's found something new here and he's bet on. 9's the total. Oakland minus 115 at home. Dave, what's up?
Lance Lynn's always been a good pitcher. You go back to those days with the Cardinals, he was a really solid pitcher, and then he had some injury problems. And his value went down. and it looked like he might not get back to the level he used to be at, but he has. And this guy's a real grinder. Throws hard, gets strikeouts, he misses bats. I mean, there's nothing fancy about him. He just gets the ball and he throws it. And he's a bull. I mean, he'll go out there 105, 110 pitches, no problem whatsoever. So he's kind of a throwback guy. And he hasn't shown really any real signs of regression. He had a couple of starts that weren't great recently, but you look at the strikeouts in those games, they were still up there. So I think he had 12 in his last start. So, I mean, he's still doing what he does. And he's a tough guy to go against. Mengden's simple enough. If he's got his command, he's good. If he's getting ahead of pitchers, getting ahead of hitters, he can be really tough. When he's not getting ahead of hitters, his stuff isn't good enough to survive. Texas running and thumped Oakland last night. I think maybe the A's turn it back tonight, but I'm not going against Lance Lynn right now.
Brian, what are you thinking here in the AL West tonight?
Yeah, I kind of like the road team here. Dave talked about Lance Lynn. Just 2 years ago, he has a 3.43 ERA. He gave up 27 home runs that year. This year, he's only given up 13, and he's only 50 innings less than he was then, 3.93 ERA. This is a guy who's a good pitcher when he's healthy, and right now he's pitching well. The offense struggled a little bit, but breakout last night for 11. They're playing on the road here for a while. They haven't been winning. In fact, Texas has been threatening to drop some of their players that have been their starters for years down to the minors and trading them. And they just brought up one of their younger outfielders to play again. Yeah, they're saying, you know what? If you're not going to do it for us, we'll bring somebody else. We got other guys to replace you. I like that. Texas is a team right now that at one point was in the wild card race. I don't think they're there anymore entering this game. They just haven't played as well, 52-51. That's not going to probably get them to the wild card. Oakland's a team, when they're hitting, they're really good. But take a look at the A's the last 4 games, 3, 2, 4, 1. In fact, you go out their last 8 games, their best hitting performance was 6. I like Texas here. I think Texas is the way to go. I think it's we're getting, at least in my opinion, the far better starter here. And you got a team that no people are writing off at this point because they are no longer in playoff contention.
Good stuff, Brian. Hey, Dave, we got Baltimore, L.A. up next, the Angels. Do you have a pitcher here for L.A.? Is it Canning?
No, we don't know what's going to take place. I think my guess is they might go opener and then Pena might start. It was Griffin Canning's start, but he had a weird game last night, which goes forever. And they ended up putting Griffin Canning in. And, in fact, he ended up taking the loss in that game. And then the Orioles, this is the weirdest thing of all in this game, was the Orioles take an 8-6 lead in, the 15th or 16th inning. They'd run out of pitchers. They didn't have any more pitchers left, so they took Wilkerson, who was a position player, and he came in and got the save. He'd been playing in the outfield, and they made him they didn't have any pitchers, so you take the ball. And he gets him 1, 2, 3, and I think he got Ohtani. It was one of the guys he got, so pretty good. Wojciechowski's coming off a actual kind of a flirtation with a no-hitter, which was unexpected, let's put it that way. I don't know what the Angels are going to do, but whatever they do, they'll be a big favorite.
Brian, what are you thinking here? I mean, of recent, this is Baltimore's best pitcher.
Yeah, he has been lately. 84, 51 his last 2 starts. Interesting to note that save is the first position player save in Major League Baseball history.
Isn't that weird?
I saw an interesting stat from Ralph Michaels. He does a lot of the charting and statting for our website, and he just does a terrific job. Teams who have just lost to the Baltimore Orioles, the very next game, they're 20-3 on the season. Pretty impressive to take the Angels here. Be interesting what they come up with here. The interesting part about Canning was I have him on my fantasy team, and because he was a starter and not starting yesterday, I didn't have him in my lineup, thank God, because he got crushed 5 earned runs, I believe, in that inning. So it worked out pretty well for me when it's going good, it's going good, I guess. But the Angels are nothing for me. Baltimore's hitting pretty well, though. 10, 2, 7, 3, 5, 6, 11, 9. Offensively, they're doing well. Can Asher come up with another quality start here. We'll have to see. I'm not buying into it yet, but some of the guys that follow the pitches that I follow, like the Brooks baseball and stuff, they were just blown away by some of his pitches in that last game. So it's sort of like Lopez for Chicago White Sox. He's been throwing like 97, 99 the last 3 or 4 starts. He's turned himself into a different pitcher lately. These are the things that if you're going to keep up in baseball, which is a grind, you need to be able to follow these things and see, hey, that guy either found a new pitch. We talked about Beatty the other day. A guy who found a new pitch or did something different or changes the amount of fastballs he's throwing or whatever. Keep up on that because you'll be ahead of the crowd in that regard.
Yeah.
But at this point, I can't make a comment yet, but I sure would like to be on the Angels here.
Yeah, you can beat the line movements a lot that way. Good point, Brian. Guys, we got 2 games left here. Detroit, Seattle, Daniel Norris versus Kikuchi. 9.5 being the total, minus 140 now. The Mariners taking money, and, they hit lefties well. And Kikuchi, outside of the division, seems to be, by some people, a bet-on situation. Brian, do you like the Mariners and agree with this line move?
Well, they may hit the lefties well, but they don't have a good record against them. They're 9-21 on the season. So, from that regard, I think anybody hits Kikuchi well. That's the problem you run into. And Norris isn't somebody that I'm a big fan of either. I would like to play an over when these two teams get together. Let's take a look at how these teams have batted lately. Seattle 10-5, 2-7, 3-2, 10. A little up and down, but Detroit's offense is really strong. 2-0, 2-4, 5-1, 3-2-0. I don't want this Detroit offense, and that's the problem. Even against Kikuchi, they could score 4 or 5 against them, but that's probably not going to be enough here. Lean with the Seattle, maybe team total over, but at this point, I don't have anything on this game.
Dave, what are you thinking here?
I think let's talk about the next game.
All right, last one up. Houston, St. Louis, Flaherty on the hill for St. Louis. Pretty much pick 'em price, 8.5 the total, Dave.
Yeah, and Flaherty's been unlucky since he arrived in the majors because the guy's a quality pitcher. We know that. And yet, when he pitches, the Cardinals don't win. They're 19-29 in his starts going back to the beginning of last year, which, when you look at his numbers, is kind of astonishing. Whereas Wainwright has had some good fortune, and Michaelis is a guy who has had extremely good fortune. Flaherty never gets any run support. I don't know why. Urquidy was not good in his first couple of starts. A lot better last time out. He had a very good game last time out. Haven't seen enough of him to form a real opinion. I do know this, though. I don't want to go against the Astros when they're hot. And they're kind of hot right now. So, I mean, my numbers certainly favor Flaherty. He's the more seasoned veteran, if you want to call it that, even though he's still a young pitcher. And Urquidy's kind of an unknown. And the Cardinals are playing really good ball right now. But, man, this Astros team, when they're right, you just stay on them or away from them. Don't go against them. And that's kind of how I am with this game.
Brian, anything in conclusion?
Yeah, Urquidy, just going back to changing the way you pitch a little bit, he didn't have much success his first 2. And then last time he went straight fastballs.
Yep.
A lot more fastballs than he threw in the first 2 starts, and he had success against Texas in that regard. Houston's hot, but so is St. Louis. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. The one thing for St. Louis is they were just on the road. They played at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, very successful on the road. Now they're coming home. A lot of people will think, well, now that they're home, this is just going to continue. Well, we've all seen this in baseball and basketball, road trips, that kind of thing. Your first day home, you got to deal with the home issues, the family issues, everything. And they did play yesterday. They played at Pittsburgh yesterday. So I think the St. Louis side, people are going to just expect it to continue. It may not for this one game. And, I'm with Dave here. I think there may be some value on Houston in this contest here. So that's what I'm looking at at this point.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. And we got Bryan Leonard on Twitter at @BLeonardSports. Anything you want to throw out to the watchers before we shut this down, Brian?
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing, basketball related. The USA team for the World Cup is getting their players together to play for the country. And a lot of the players are pulling out, and right now they're really struggling to get players. I think they need to go back in the past and pick up Sean Kemp because we know he never pulls out.
Good one there, Brian. And at Dave Cokin on Twitter. That's a tough follow, Dave. Anything you want to throw out before we shut this down?
I got nothing to top that. I'm done.
All right, guys. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Check out Dave and Brian on Wager Talk. Myself at sportsmemo.com. Guys, thanks for the time. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you.
All right,
See
thanks
ya.
for watching.